Well, the answer is because I care deeply about making a positive difference in helping the most vulnerable and supporting those who are most in need.
When you zoom into a moment where tradition, power, and reputation collide inside the royal world, everything suddenly feels heavier, sharper, and far more intense than it looks on the surface. What really unfolds when someone connected to the extended royal circle steps over a line so publicly, so visibly, right in the middle of one of the most exclusive and high-pressure events on the British royal calendar, where even a single misstep can echo far beyond the room and reach the very core of the monarchy itself. Tonight's story pulls you straight into a world of whispers, tension, and carefully controlled appearances that palace insiders allegedly talk about only behind closed doors, away from cameras and official statements that rarely reveal the full picture. Inside this unfolding situation sits a formal royal banquet, a setting built on centuries of tradition, strict etiquette, and silent expectations that everyone in the room is supposed to understand without needing reminders. And at the center of the attention is a perceived breach of royal decorum, serious enough that Catherine, Princess of Wales, is placed in a position where her presence and response become impossible to ignore. This is not just about one event or one moment. It's about how the modern monarchy handles pressure when private family connections meet public responsibility in the most visible way possible. To really understand the weight of this story, you have to step into the wider web of royal relationships, especially those connected to Queen Camilla and her extended family line that exist just outside the core working monarchy, but still inside its influence. Camilla is not only queen consort, but also a grandmother whose family connections stretch into two separate households through her children, creating a unique position within the royal orbit that blends private life with public proximity in a very delicate balance. Her son, Tom Parker Bowles, and her daughter, Laura Lopes, form the bridge between her personal family life and the broader royal environment that surrounds King Charles and the institution itself. And this is where the story deepens in complexity and attention. Camilla has 5 grandchildren in total, and while none of them carry royal titles or formal roles, their names often come up in discussions about proximity to royal events and elite social circles that most people never get access to. Tom Parker Bowles has 2 children, Lola and Freddie, while Laura Lopes has 3 children, named Eliza, Gus, and Louise. None of them are working royals, none of them carry official duties, and none of them are part of the structured royal household system. But even without titles, their family connection places them in a rare and unusual position where visibility can appear suddenly and unexpectedly during formal royal occasions. That connection alone creates a unique kind of pressure that is rarely spoken about openly, but is deeply understood within royal protocol circles. Because in the royal world, even being near the institution can change how actions are interpreted. Expert observers of royal protocol often explain that extended family members operate in a very different space compared to working royals, especially when it comes to expectations in public settings. Working royals receive structured training, guidance, and institutional support designed to prepare them for ceremonial duties, public appearances, and diplomatic representation. But extended family members step into these environments as private individuals, meaning they are not formally trained for the same level of scrutiny or expectation, even though they may still find themselves inside highly formal royal spaces. That difference creates a subtle but powerful tension, because when something goes wrong or appears out of place, the response is not just personal, it becomes institutional by association. Royal commentator Richard Fitzwilliams has previously highlighted how the monarchy often deals with what he describes as the extended family effect, where proximity alone can influence perception regardless of official status or responsibility. The closer someone is to the royal core, the more their actions can be interpreted as reflecting on the crown itself, whether intended or not. And that is where things become sensitive behind palace doors. In most situations, the royal household prefers to handle issues quietly through private conversations, subtle guidance, or internal adjustments that never reach public attention. But there are moments when discretion alone is not enough to contain the ripple effect of public visibility. Camilla herself has acknowledged in past discussions the challenge of blending her personal family life with the structured and highly visible world of royal responsibility. Before her marriage to King Charles, she was known to prioritize keeping her children's lives as private as possible, shielding them from the intense scrutiny that comes with royal association. And by most accounts, that approach has continued into her role as Queen Consort. Her grandchildren are rarely present in media coverage, and they are not commonly featured in public royal narratives, which allows them to maintain relatively private lives despite their family connection. However, privacy inside a royal orbit is never absolute, because once a private life intersects with formal royal settings, even briefly, the expectations shift immediately. This becomes especially noticeable during high-level events such as white tie banquets held in historic royal venues like Windsor Castle, and that is where the intensity of this story escalates dramatically. Windsor Castle is not just another ceremonial location, it is one of the most symbolically powerful royal spaces in the entire United Kingdom, carrying nearly 1,000 years of royal history within its structure and atmosphere. St. George's Hall, the main banquet space, stretches across an immense ceremonial hall where every detail, from seating arrangements to decorative symbolism, is carefully designed to reflect hierarchy, diplomacy, and tradition. Every visual element inside that room is intentional. Heraldic shields line the ceilings, representing centuries of knighthood and royal order. Guards and attendants move with precise choreography, ensuring that every aspect of service follows long-established ceremonial patterns that leave no room for improvisation. Even the placement of guests is carefully negotiated in advance, reflecting political relationships, diplomatic balance, and institutional respect. Nothing inside that environment is casual. Former royal staff member Grant Harold has often described these events as highly structured performances where every person present becomes part of a larger ceremonial system, whether they realize it or not. In that setting, there is no such thing as blending into the background. Every guest is visible, every action is interpreted, and every moment carries meaning beyond what is immediately seen. The white tie dress code reinforces that seriousness even further, demanding formal attire that removes personal expression in favor of uniform elegance and tradition. For men, that means tailcoats, white bow ties, and formal decorations. For women, it means floor-length gowns, often paired with tiaras when appropriate, reinforcing a visual language of formality and hierarchy. In that environment, conformity is not just expected, it is part of the structure itself. And within that carefully controlled world, Catherine, Princess of Wales, has increasingly emerged as a central figure of authority and composure. Since returning to public life following her health challenges in 2024, she's been observed taking on a more confident and visibly grounded role in formal engagements. Observers from various royal commentary circles have noted a clear shift in her presence during high-level events, describing her as more composed, more deliberate, and more naturally authoritative than in earlier years. She's no longer seen simply as adapting to royal life. She's increasingly seen as embodying it. That transformation becomes even more significant when placed against the backdrop of highly formal royal gatherings, where every detail is carefully controlled and every behavior is noticed. Imagine that environment disrupted, even slightly, by behavior that does not fully align with the expectations of the setting. Not a dramatic incident, but a noticeable deviation. Something subtle enough to raise awareness but visible enough to shift attention within the room. And imagine that moment occurring near individuals connected to Queen Camilla's extended family circle. In that kind of situation, attention naturally moves toward those who hold institutional awareness and authority within the room. And that is where Catherine's presence becomes central to the narrative being described. Because she is not just participating in these events, she is increasingly positioned as a stabilizing figure within them, someone whose role reflects both current responsibility and future expectation. Those familiar with royal dynamics suggest that in moments like these, responses are shaped less by emotion and more by awareness of institutional image and long-term continuity. A future queen operating within a present-day system built on centuries of expectation, discipline, and symbolism. And all of this unfolds within a broader shift in royal power dynamics that has become more visible in recent years. With King Charles facing health challenges publicly acknowledged in 2024 and Catherine herself returning from treatment in the same period, the perception of leadership within the monarchy has gradually begun to evolve. Public attention has increasingly focused on continuity, resilience, and the emerging presence of the next generation of senior royals. Catherine's appearances at major ceremonial events, including widely viewed national occasions, have contributed to a growing sense that a new phase of the monarchy is already taking shape in real time. Not through formal declarations, but through presence, behavior, and consistent visibility inside the institution's most important moments. And as that evolution continues, every formal event becomes more than tradition. It becomes a reflection of how the future of the monarchy is slowly, carefully, and visibly being shaped right before the world's eyes, moment by moment, step by step, without ever needing to say it out loud. Royal historian Dr. Ed Owens notes that how the public views a royal directly shapes how much real influence that royal actually holds inside the monarchy. He argues that popularity is power in the royal system, and this idea becomes even more important in today's media-driven world. When the public admires a royal figure, it creates a layer of legitimacy that goes far beyond their official title or formal position in the hierarchy. Right now, Catherine, Princess of Wales, is widely seen as the most trusted and most admired member of the entire royal family, surpassing King Charles and Princess Anne in public approval ratings, and significantly outpacing Queen Camilla, who continues to carry the long-standing weight of past controversy in public memory. This shift is not just symbolic, it has real consequences for how influence moves inside the palace. Because in a system where hierarchy is everything, even unofficial forces like public trust, emotional connection, and cultural admiration can quietly reshape how authority actually functions behind closed doors. Camilla may hold the official title of Queen Consort, placing her at the top tier of royal ranking beside the monarch, while Catherine holds the title of Princess of Wales, traditionally associated with the future Queen Consort. But in the eyes of many observers, Catherine's influence now stretches far beyond her official designation. Those who work closely with her often describe her as extremely detail-focused, deeply committed to maintaining dignity during public engagements, and increasingly unwilling to tolerate any behavior that could reflect negatively on the monarchy as a whole. One insider reportedly noted in 2025 that Catherine has developed a very strong internal clarity about what the monarchy should represent in the modern era, and just as importantly, what it must never appear to represent. That level of clarity, combined with her resilience following her health challenges in 2024, has only strengthened her position as a stabilizing and respected figure within the institution. So when Catherine is involved in any situation tied to royal conduct, even indirectly, it naturally draws attention inside palace circles. Now, this leads into the central narrative being discussed, the alleged incident that has been circulating across royal commentary spaces, online discussions, and speculative media platforms. It is important to emphasize that what follows is based on claims, interpretations, and unverified reports rather than officially confirmed statements. The royal household rarely confirms or denies private family matters, especially those involving extended relatives at formal events. Instead, it typically remains silent, allowing stories to rise or fade depending on public interest and media focus. Recently, several royal-focused platforms, including YouTube, Channels, social media discussions, and online blogs have circulated claims about a formal Windsor Castle event linked to the royal calendar. At this event, it is alleged that a member of Queen Camilla's extended family behaved in a way that at least one unnamed attendee reportedly described as completely inappropriate for the setting. While the exact details vary depending on the source, royal reporting language often groups such claims under broader categories like breaches of etiquette, inappropriate conduct, or violations of expected decorum during high-level ceremonial gatherings. In royal tradition, even small behavioral missteps can become magnified depending on timing, visibility, and the importance of the occasion itself. Cases involving figures such as Princess Michael of Kent or Prince Andrew are often referenced when discussing how the royal family manages reputational risk in situations where private behavior collides with public visibility. In those scenarios, a familiar pattern tends to emerge. First, the matter is handled quietly whenever possible. Second, if necessary, it is escalated internally within the institution. And third, if it becomes public, the royal household shifts toward careful narrative control and preservation of institutional stability. In the version of events being discussed here, insiders claim that the situation escalated quickly enough that a quiet internal correction was not sufficient on its own. Instead, an immediate intervention was allegedly required to maintain order during the formal event. And this is where Catherine's role becomes central in the narrative. According to commentary-based accounts and alleged insider interpretations, Catherine responded in a calm, controlled, and decisive manner, not aggressive, not emotional, but firm, composed, and unmistakably authoritative. Reports suggest she made it clear that the individual involved needed to either adjust their behavior immediately or leave the situation entirely. The wording used in multiple interpretations consistently highlights terms such as decisive action, composed authority, and quiet control without escalation. In a royal environment, that type of response carries significant weight because it is not about confrontation. It is about maintaining structure, protecting dignity, and preserving the image of the institution. Some interpretations even suggest that Camilla's reaction to the situation, if she was directly aware of it, may have been complex on a personal level because managing family-related issues in a public royal setting carries emotional and reputational sensitivity. In that framing, Catherine stepping in is sometimes seen not as interference, but as stabilization of a potentially disruptive moment, a way of preventing escalation rather than creating it, a way of protecting the dignity of the event and avoiding a larger public situation. And that leads into one of the most important underlying dynamics in this entire narrative, the relationship between Camilla and Catherine. On the surface, their interaction appears respectful, calm, and professionally aligned. At major royal engagements such as Trooping the Colour, state events and official ceremonies, they are often seen exchanging polite conversation and maintaining a united public presence. There is no visible hostility, no public disagreement, and no obvious tension during official appearances. However, royal analysts often point out that institutional relationships cannot be fully understood through public behavior alone, because beneath the surface lies a deeper symbolic structure shaped by history, public perception, and evolving cultural memory. Camilla's position as Queen Consort is tied to one of the most widely discussed and emotionally complex narratives in modern royal history, involving King Charles and Princess Diana. Even though Camilla has spent decades rebuilding her public image and has achieved significant acceptance over time, parts of that historical narrative still influence perception in some segments of the public. Catherine, in contrast, occupies a different symbolic space entirely. She's widely associated with stability, continuity, emotional intelligence, and modernization of royal presentation without breaking tradition. Her connection to Princess Diana through Prince William adds another layer of emotional interpretation in how the public views her role within the monarchy. This creates what some experts describe as parallel authority structures. One structure is formal, based on rank, title, and official hierarchy. The other is emotional, based on trust, admiration, and cultural resonance. Camilla represents formal authority as queen consort. Catherine represents emotional authority as the most trusted royal figure in the modern monarchy. Most of the time, these two structures operate without direct conflict. But in moments of tension or heightened attention, they can overlap in ways that reveal subtle shifts in influence. In this interpretation, Catherine's alleged response is not about replacing authority. It is about managing it in real time. She does not publicly challenge Camilla. She does not create visible conflict. Instead, she resolves the situation in a way that protects everyone involved: the institution, the family, and the overall stability of the event. Former Palace Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter has often explained the difference between simply holding a royal title and actively embodying responsibility under pressure. By that standard, Catherine's actions, whether viewed as factual, interpreted, or speculative, are often described as an example of composed leadership under scrutiny. And that brings us to the broader reality of the British monarchy today, which is currently in a clear period of transition. King Charles III's reign exists alongside growing public awareness of succession planning and generational change within the royal family. At the same time, William and Catherine are increasingly viewed as central figures in shaping what the next era of monarchy will look like. Catherine's public role continues to focus on long-term initiatives such as early childhood development, mental health awareness, education, and community support. Royal biographer Robert Hardman has noted that her approach is not about disrupting tradition, but refining it, making it more relevant while preserving its foundation. And that distinction is key, because monarchy does not evolve through announcements, it evolves through behavior, presence, and consistent action in moments like this. So whether this narrative is viewed as confirmed, speculative, or symbolic, it ultimately reflects something larger about how leadership inside the royal family is perceived today. It is not only about titles, it is about trust, and it is about composure when pressure rises. And as Catherine continues to step into greater responsibility, moments like this become part of a much bigger conversation about how the future monarchy is quietly taking shape in real time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more royal stories, breakdowns, and deep dives just like this. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next update when new royal developments drop. Now, comment below. Do you think Catherine was right to act? And who do you think holds more influence inside the palace right now, Camilla or Catherine?